you know.
Let's chip a hill.
Good evening, everyone. We'll call the April 3rd regular meeting of the Bay Path School District Committee to order. First, we're recording for future broadcast on the website. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd also like to ask if we could take a brief moment of silence. This is the first time that our committee has come together since the tragedy in Nashville and another school down there. So if we could take a brief moment of silence for the victims of the tragedy and the families and everyone in that area. Thank you very much. If I could just ask the superintendent for fire department regs.
Sure. We have 2 doors here in case we need to use them for an emergency exit. As soon as you go out those, you can go straight ahead to the external exit. If those are blocked, you can go right through this door and to the left and out the health assisting door.
All right, thank you. First item up, we have approval of minutes. The first set of minutes is our regular meeting minutes from March 6th.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion, changes, amendments? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? 1 abstention. 2 abstentions, sorry. Yeah, David. Motion carries. Next set of minutes is the public hearing budget minutes, also from March 6th.
So moved.
Motion and a second. Any questions or changes? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The same 2. Next item up is the approval of warrants. The warrants are circulating for signature. Is there a motion to approve the warrants?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. No, 1 abstention. You raise your hand on the warrants?
Oh, no, I signed those.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Motion carries.
Sorry about that. So used to raising my hand.
You throw me for a loop.
I did.
Correspondence. Emery, do we have any correspondence? Arminda, Student Advisory. Welcome.
Thank you. I did another report for my survey from March. I got 40 responses. So response amounts are pretty consistent now. I asked about Skills USA, which happened last month, and the assembly, which also happened last month. A lot of students like the shirt throwing this time around because the last assembly or the pep rally we had was done by students, the shirt throwing, I mean. So this time it was done by an adult, and a lot of people, it was I guess more fair, right? So people thought that was fun. Again, in the gym, the acoustics are very bad. Nobody can really hear much, especially myself, I'm hard of hearing, but that was a reoccurring problem. Another item that I got was that a lot of students liked that skills students were able to have that half day again, just so they can just focus on the tests and get out of school. It really alleviated a lot of stress. And one really good suggestion that was brought up a couple times was for students to sit by grade, because we actually didn't really have that assigned by grade seating in the gym. So it was a little chaotic. It was a little hard to find seating because there was a lot of empty seats in between the rows, so we didn't really know where to go. But a lot of students actually were sitting like where the stairs were. So it wasn't the best, but that can definitely be easily fixed. I also asked for positive and negative feedback, just like last survey. 23 people out of the 40 responses selected SHOP for positive, 18 for academics, and 17 for safety. And for negative, we had 20 people selecting school events, 18 for lunch and food, and 15 for academics. Some additional comments that I got were that I guess the day number on the TV is wrong sometimes. I think this was because of MCAS testing where the days were kind of mixed up. So you would have to, I guess, update that manually, I assume. So we had a student, or a couple students really, who went into the wrong class at that time. It's a minor issue, but that is something I received. Also, that iPass is hard to navigate, especially on your phone, which I can attest to is really hard to navigate and get updated. That was one thing. Some students want more food options. One student said they don't want to ever see fish in that cafeteria again. And the last item that I want to bring up was that I actually received a comment about hate speech in VPAP and how a lot of students in the hallways are getting away with saying slurs and teachers hearing it and not really saying anything about it. I actually had a friend come to me personally about this, and she was saying how she heard the F slur used against homosexual people used in the hallway, shouted out in front of the teacher, and nothing was done. So that is something that I think is pretty important. But overall, I had a lot of comments also saying that they're very happy with the way school is going and very happy with the surveys and the changes that are being made. So that's good news.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I gotta make a comment too. Before the meeting, the superintendent made a comment to me. Arminda's really doing a good job and she's really affecting change in the school. So what you're doing here is really beneficial. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments for Arminda? All right. I guess the only comment I would have is, and I think we talked about this in the last survey, one of the last surveys that she did that was concerning, was the hate speech thing. You know, the fact that it happens in front of teachers and not addressed is somewhat concerning. So anything we can do to serve that, yeah.
So through the chair, and I spoke with Arminda about it, it's completely contrary to the code of conduct and morals of the school that's tolerated. We've done more than a couple presenters to our staff about culturally responsive teaching and addressing hate in the hallways. So I address it in my superintendent's report. You know, the principal, myself, and the athletic director went to the MIA, Attorney General, MASS sponsored Addressing Hate in Sports, and it was a really great training and first step on what needs to be done. Unfortunately, it's not limited to VPAP, but we should be able to control our world despite what's happening out there. So we do have on May 18th scheduled a speaker that will talk to our students as well about microaggressions and, you know, implicit bias. You know, we've done several trainings with our teachers. We will bring it up at the next staff meeting as well, the results of the survey as well as the previous one. And we keep trying to address it going forward. And we're doing a lot. I'm really happy that we've got this student-facing speaker coming in to talk to the students that you shouldn't feel comfortable at all uttering any of these slurs or whatever you want to call them. So that'll be on the 18th. We have 2 sessions set up. She'll come in and speak to, and she's a nationally renowned speaker on it, Khalees Warner. We had her last year speak to our, was it last year they flew together or beginning of this year? She came in and talked to the teachers and it was very well received in a non-accusatory and comfortable way, and a lot of good comments after that. Other things we're looking at is continued trainings ongoing next year as well for our students and the teachers. And we'll stay in tune with everything that the MIA and the Attorney General's office is doing. They sponsored these trainings through the regions, and they're getting good responses and good feedback on it. So we'll continue to address that until it's eradicated in our school and hopefully beyond.
Terry, how does it get handled? Let's say somebody throws a slur at like a young gay man or a young lady. Do they get expelled? Do they get, like, what type of punishment is it just a good stern talking to? Or?
So there's different levels. Expulsion is hard. There's new regulations on discipline, and there's restorative justice and alternative programs for addressing poor behavior. So it's not suspension or expulsion. And there's still guidelines that all the school districts are waiting from DESE on the new mandate. For these practices, we have to document everything we've done prior to suspension and or expulsion on that. And it, again, it depends on, you know, is it just thrown out? Was it directed? Which is, you know, hate. And there's different levels, so it's hard to say what specifically. In a situation like that, if there were adults, they should have called the individuals who use that term out and wrote up a statement and given it to the Dean of Students to follow up to see what level it rose to. If it was, you know, just pure ignorance and not understanding microaggressions, it's hard when you use, you know, a specific term to say that, you know, I didn't know. But we would address it as that. But at the bare minimum, an adult in earshot should have called out the individuals involved and taken full statements for investigation on that. You know, I'm disappointed to hear that that didn't happen. We'll continue to address it. If it was any one of our administrators, that definitely would have happened. Statements would have been taken, an investigation into, you know, was it deliberate or what the intent behind it was. But in everything we look to, we don't want to go right to suspension or expulsion. Change the behavior and bring the attention. That's restorative justice.
The school doesn't have like pronoun issues yet, like, because that can be kind of complex even.
I think it's safe to say that, you know, I mean, we have an inclusive environment and we have work to do. So we do have a robust LGBTQ questioning group. Yeah, it's a group. It's led by a faculty advisor, and we do that. So we address the issues as we go on. But it's I would say overall, we're an inclusive environment with work to do to eliminate some of the implicit biases and microaggressions and all of that we need to, you know, discuss, and we're wading into those waters, and we're trying to do it appropriately, you know, and there's a urgency to it, but we don't want to rush in and make mistakes about it. We want to do it with people who are experts in the field. Police Warren with Warren, and MIA has done a lot of work around this. Sports, we've had events there, we've addressed it, you know, so we'll continue our training and, you know, look into different alternatives. I have a meeting with the superintendent who's done a ton of work with the READY group at the state level, and talk to him about what they're doing, what they've done in their district, as well as what we can do and how we can really dive into it in terms of setting up student voices and councils for students to share with us more directly rather than wait for a survey of what they're seeing and hearing out there, so that we can have their voice heard and bring it to the forefront as well.
Through the chair, I just want to credit Armando for putting together this data, and certainly that issue is disturbing. However, I would hate to believe that any teacher or administrator would allow that type of hate speech. The hallways, the cafeteria, really anywhere in the school, a loud classroom, it's very difficult to decipher who's saying what and who they're saying it to. So I think it's important for these young folks to, if you see something, say something. Get right to the nearest administrator, the nearest teacher, and just let them know, I saw so-and-so say something to so-and-so, and so forth. Because the teacher likely is not hearing this. And I find it very hard to believe that anyone in this building, any adult in this building, teacher, staff, cafeteria, custodians, would ever allow anything like that. And that's not to discredit that young person that said that to you. Not at all. They may have thought that the teacher heard it. There could be someone right behind you, right to the side of you in a noisy hallway or classroom. You have no idea who's saying what. It's just the nature of the beast. Certainly something that I would love to see taken care of if there are those conversations taking place in the hallway. But I think you need to pinpoint exactly where it's coming from and who it's aimed at, and get that information to the correct authorities. But again, Arminda, thank you. You're doing a fantastic job. It's great to hear the voice of the students, and yours as well.
Any other comments? All right, hearing none. We don't have any old business on the agenda. I don't see anyone here for citizens' participation, so we'll move into new business. And the first item under new business is approval of the Skill USA State Leadership and Skills Conference.
Through the chair, the superintendent director, the vocational director, and the school business manager recommend the school committee vote to approve our participation in the Skills USA State Leadership and Skills Conference to be held at the Best Western Royal Plaza in Marlborough from April 27th through April 29th for 2 advisors, 10 chaperones, 51 high school students, and 17 post-secondary practical nursing students for a cost of approximately $33,190 for the high school students to be paid out of account number 53, Skills USA, and approximately $9,930 for the practical nursing program to be paid out of account number 12334, practical nursing students skills expense.
So moved.
Seconded.
All right, motion and a second to approve the recommendation. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Next item is approval of the outside project, Jacob Edwards Library in Southbridge.
Through the chair, the superintendent director and the vocational director recommend the school committee vote to approve the outside project for the Jacob Edwards Library in Southbridge as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Seconded.
Oh, I got you. Thanks, Don. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Next item is approval of the new executive assistant to the superintendent employment policy.
Through the chair, the negotiation subcommittee and the superintendent director recommend the school committee vote to approve the 2023-2026 employment policy for the new executive assistant to the superintendent, Cheryl Femino, as submitted.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. And if I understand things correctly, we'll meet her at our June meeting.
Yes.
Excellent. Item D, under new business, surplus equipment.
Through the chair, the superintendent director, the school business manager, and the vocational director recommend the school committee vote to place 1, used Laguna CNC lathe, and 2, laser cutting and engraving machines on the surplus equipment list to be disposed of according to the school committee surplus equipment policy, using the most appropriate method available.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second on the table. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Approval of the 2023-2024 house project.
Through the chair, the superintendent director does not recommend proceeding with the house building project for an existing employee at this time.
Motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Questions, comments, discussion? With George and then Don.
Through the chair, just concerning earlier discussions regarding this, I thought that we had taken a vote to address the bargaining units concerning contracts, opening the contract to a side letter to ensure that there is a house project this year. I'm just wondering if that ever happened. I believe the vote was unanimous.
What, I was waiting.
About reaching out to the bargaining units on the contracts on the sideline was launched, if that happened.
Right, so the motion was to, if approved by legal, we talked to legal. There was a lengthy discussion at the last meeting about what needed to be done prior to that and negotiating that. So we didn't open negotiations with that.
Everybody has them in their folders.
Yep.
Everybody has policy subcommittee minutes in their folders if they need them.
Obviously, being a small producer, we like to keep our ears to the ground.
Any other questions or comments?
Well, through the chair, would it be possible for the chair to read that motion? Just so
Yeah, sure.
people at home can have an understanding of what took place.
Absolutely. So this was from the policy subcommittee on March 6th. And the motion as documented is to have the House build project policy stay the same as we have had in the past, and to open the current BPTA contract and add a side letter of agreement to satisfy the state ethics requirement. There was one in favor and one not in favor of the vote. 6 in favor, 1 not in favor.
So I'm confused. The superintendent just said that that vote was based on seeking legal counsel's opinion before addressing the bargaining units, but that's not the way that's read.
Well, the way I understood it, and from our last meeting, and anyone else can jump in, is in our discussion with council, it was recommended that we first, before we open up an agreement or do a side letter, that the recommendation would be to revise our policy on the matter prior to that occurring, prior to negotiating it. So that was my understanding from the overview that was given by council.
And there was a vote taken on that, which overrules that original vote.
No, this was the vote by the subcommittee. Yeah, absolutely, the subcommittee voted to keep as is.
Right.
But then in the full meeting, when we had the conversation with council, I think that was an executive or?
Yeah.
Executive.
That was an exec, yeah, so maybe I shouldn't say that. My understanding of his recommendation was to revise the policy before bringing that into contract negotiations. That was step 1.
And I understand that recommendation, but I don't understand how that motion and that vote went by the wayside, and now what's taken its place is an illegal.
No, it didn't go by the wayside. What happened is we did not have on our March 6th regular meeting agenda, we didn't have the topic of the House bill to allow us to vote on it. So we couldn't take action on it in March.
So to fill in that was just the policy subcommittee. The subcommittee doesn't set the action of the board. It recommends to the full board to make an action. So the board has not authorized the use, that step yet. That's tonight's potential agenda item. But it was only the recommendation to push that to the full board for a vote.
Okay, so it was not.
It's not an actionable item from the subcommittee. Subcommittee only gives us a template or a recommendation, yay or nay, and we can act at our discretion either way.
So just for clarity, do you want to read this or?
So through the chair, if I can clarify, I read, the abbreviated, but as submitted, I'll read my memo to the school committee. The FY23 house project was advertised in the Stonebridge Press, including all their print and online papers. the weeks of 10/25/21 through 10/29/21, 11/8/21 to 11/12/21, and 11/22/21 to 11/26/21. The only application received was from Ms. Jennifer Rhea. Ms. Rhea received the letter dated May 25th of 2022, indicating Bay Path would not be proceeding with the new house build project for the 22-23 school year due to the delay in the current project. The letter also indicated that the contract is being reviewed by the policy subcommittee at the time. Based on the review of the current house building project policy, research of other regional vocational technical school best practices, and district legal counsel opinion, the superintendent director does not recommend proceeding with the house building project for an existing employee at this time. The superintendent director recommends school committees seek a ruling from the Massachusetts State Ethics Commission on the practice of building homes for current employees. 2, amend the existing house building policy and contract as appropriate. And 3, advertise and select the next residential house building project accordingly.
Is that what the motion is on, just for point of order?
Yes.
That's what you were making a motion on, Tim, I believe?
It wasn't me.
Thought it wasn't.
Was
Yes,
Yeah,
It was.
yeah.
yes, it was.
Okay. So you were making a motion based on what the superintendent abbreviated, I assume?
Yes.
Correct, and that was my second as well.
Yes,
So
that's what I have so
I
far.
believe Don's the next.
Done.
Thank you. I'm not sure, I'll be honest with you about these regulations. I'm not up to 100% on everything. But I have in front of me a regulation 930 CMR, State Ethics Commission, 6.16. It says exemption of fee-based contractual relationships readily available to the public. And before I read that, has that been discussed at all? I don't want to reread it if we're all familiar with it. Okay, so it doesn't look it. So if I just read a couple things here, it says the purpose of 930 CMR 616 is to allow public employees to enter into fee-based contractual relationships readily available to the public. And it goes on to say that a public employee may enter into and receive the benefits of any fee-based contractual relationship with a public agency that employs the public employee, or with a public agency at the same level of government that employs the public agency, providing that the fee-based contractual relationship is readily available at a set price to the public at large without violating a couple of MGL laws here. And it goes on to give an example, and I brought this up, probably one of the original discussions, where a regional vocational high school trains students to perform auto repairs in part by running a program whereby students provide oil changes and other services to members of the public for a set fee payable to the school. A teacher at the school can have his oil changed by the students as part of that program, as long as those services are readily available to the public and the teacher pays the applicable fee. So with that, again, I would assume our lawyer saw that, but it seems to be pretty clear to me. I'm not sure if I'm not seeing something, and I appreciate your comment on that, point out what I'm not seeing, but it seems pretty fair to me that that's what's allowing teachers to receive this kind of a service, as long as it's open to the public, and it's a contract that they've signed.
Which, if you recall, that was an example I brought up when the lawyer was on the phone, and I don't disagree. So if we take the superintendent director's recommendation, something I brought up the other day, let's send this out to state ethics. They're quickly going to be able to vet that, if that is 100% accurate and still current regulation by the state, and we'll get the opinion back. Because my number one fear in this whole thing is if we vote to move forward, something goes awry, someone has a problem, every one of us are individually liable for that decision. So I'm not willing to pay that fine personally, I'm the first to admit it. Whereas state ethics is a free service. We don't need to employ our legal to do that right off the bat. Let's get the opinion back. If there's any question then, step 2, amend, step 3, advertise, and if we need to do a 1A or a 2A, send it to Tim Norris for an opinion, then pay the fee. But those are the steps that I would highly recommend That way, every future employee, past or current, can have a house built by this board. And then it closes the chapter, the policy is rock solid.
Done.
No, my memory sometimes is faulty, but I think some of the discussion was that an employee couldn't have two contracts. A fee-based thing and a contract are two different things. Is that the gist of what we were told?
That was,
So, through the chair, that was one, two contracts, and that's what the attorneys looked at, and they went through the, state ethics. It's,
Well, when John brought up, I didn't have
That
any
particular-
contracts.
particular example of the oil change, again, was addressed. And again, that's why the recommendation is to go through the state ethics and explain what it is. The letter of advisement from state ethics to the employee who inquired said, if you amend the collective bargaining agreement, then that eliminates that, two conflicting contracts. So at the time, again, if it was available under a fee base, as you indicate, then I would have imagined that they would have said, hey, no, you don't have to amend, just go through the fee base if it's generally available at a specific fee. However, that's why the recommendation is seek it. So again, I just want to be clear, my recommendation is not to proceed right now with the current policy for an employee at this time. It's not that we never do it. If we seek the approval, the district seeks the approval from the commission, and they say, this is how you can do it, then follow that advice, amend the policy, which is completely out of date, and move forward and get it done and do it, but do it right, and eliminate any of the ethics involved on it. And if that fee-based is equitable to an oil change, and they say, you're all set, then we have that, the district has that in writing and says, here we go. There's no negotiating the contracts, we proceed forward with it and we get it done. If they say, no, it's not equitable, this is significantly different, and they say, if you do that, this is how you do it, and then we proceed with it that way and get it done, and go through the process and build it.
Dave?
How long is the turnaround when you send something into the ethics and then they get back to you? Because there's a timeline on this too.
It's fairly quickly, they're quick. Yeah, they have attorneys of the day on, they can submit it. But I think the recommendation is the district should, the school committee should submit a request.
So we have not gone that route yet.
Right.
Okay.
Any other? Tim?
I have, I guess, two items. Comparing a new house built to an oil change is totally out of scope. I mean, that's, I'm still not, and I heard the dates on which the most recent was advertised. And to me, that rises to a level of really not much. And I still look at the fact, if you have an employee having a house built, in today's terms, my guess, most houses being built in recent years probably is in the $350,000 level, just for the house. And I've got to believe, and I'm not a contractor at all, but I got to believe labor takes up 30 or 40% of the value of a home being built. And so if we're looking at somewhere in the vicinity of $150,000 or $125,000, that's an incredible benefit. And unless this was splashed across everyone's social media, each of the 10 towns, through their Board of Selectmen or administrative assistant, had knowledge of this tremendous gift, I would be very careful on how we proceed with this. And I agree with one of the previous speakers in stating, I will not be part of anything that may have any appearance of collusion. BayPath went through 20 or 25 years ago. Probably the only one on the board was
I was after it.
Mr. LeBow. And that took years to recover. And I realized this was one individual, not an event that was closely connected to this, but it is BayPath's reputation.
Through the chair, the benefit in this is to the students. The reason I sit here is for the students. It's not because I love the union, it's not because I love the teachers, it's because I care about the kids. That's why I do what I do, that's why I've been doing it for this long. The benefit to the house project is so that the kids have something to work on. At this point in time, they will not have a job to work on next year. That's what this is all about. Now, I'm appalled that we put all of this effort and presentations and legal advice into doing away with a project that worked for 35 years with very little issue, no ethical consequences or issues, no lawsuits. All of a sudden, now we have this huge issue. Why does it take Mr. Montville to pull this up and say, why don't we talk to state ethics? Wouldn't that be the attorney's first task at hand? Let's call state ethics and figure this out. He probably knows someone in that office. But no, we do a whole roundabout, a whole dance, all around, everything but what we actually need. We have a presentation that puts people to sleep and has them walking out of here. But we don't call state ethics to try to figure out what we can do to best serve our students? Are you kidding me? So now, on top of the 68 hours, they're already sitting on their butts. They're gonna be sitting for a whole year, poking and prodding one another because they don't have work to do? I mean, give me a break. Why didn't we address this at the beginning? And I'm not grandstanding here. I'm being passionate. Again, I know some members don't want me to say that my own kid is going to be sitting on his butt for the whole first part of junior year before he gets out on co-op. I know I shouldn't be saying that. I shouldn't be looking out for my kid and his friends, the 200 other kids in the construction shops, but I am. Why isn't our main focus on what can we do to get the kids to work? And why do we pull the plug on the house project after we put it out to a lottery and after we have someone submit an application? This is all backwards. Why didn't we think about all of this before putting the house project out to a lottery? It just doesn't make sense to me. Is this a bait and switch? Here, let's see who we can get to submit. So we get someone to submit, just like in years past, it's a school teacher coming in and saving the day, providing a house because no one else submitted. No one else was a part of that lottery. There you go. Kids have work to do, it's a teacher. But no, after the fact, we reneged on all deals and we put all of our efforts into doing away with the house project. If we just put a fraction of that into calling state ethics and saying, how can we make this work? Those time frames would be totally different right now. I agree, this is going back a couple of years now. There were some issues there. And then that letter did go out saying that we're sorry, there's not gonna be a house project this year. I have no idea why something like that would come about. But if just a fraction of the effort was put into getting our kids a house to build, getting them off their butts, that would have been fantastic. That's all I have. I don't think I can sway this committee anymore with my comments. I mean, I've tried and I've tried. I just want the kids to be working, that's all.
Any other questions or comments?
Through the chair, I would just say that we want all our students to work on live projects, but we want them to work on safe and projects that conform to state legislation and ethics. This is no judgment on what's been done. It's a revelation of a practice that is currently in violation. And again, a review of our peers in regional vocational schools, no one builds houses for existing employees or their relatives for a reason. There is a method to do it. We should do it in accordance with the state ethic guidelines and do it right. To say that the students are sitting around doing nothing is wrong. Every one of our students is out working. We are seeking and we continuously seek to get community projects and live work. Just this week, Mr. Tripp will be meeting with one of our towns on a project there. We have other work coming in. There's a field house project that's ongoing that won't be completed this year, that will continue into next year, that includes plumbing, electrical, and construction. So our students shouldn't be sitting around. And I would liken it to when we closed during pandemic, that culinary didn't say, sit around, we don't have customers to serve. Our auto tech didn't say, sit around, we don't have cars in here to repair. Those departments worked on what they had to still educate the students. And no student, to our knowledge, is sitting around. If they are sitting around doing nothing because of live work, then we've got some work to do, but that's not happening. It's not coming. I haven't seen it. Mr. Tripp hasn't seen it, nor have I received reports from, Mr. Cloutier that our students are sitting around. We are out every one of our meetings. Ms. Swoop can attest to it, has called us whether we still continue to do community projects. After one of them, for a half hour, I spoke with the DPW and the wastewater treatment on what we can do. So we're constantly knocking on doors and looking for live work for our students. The house project, again, through the roadmap of doing it the right way, we'll be back on track as soon as we cross all the T's and dot the I's on it.
Done.
Would it be appropriate to put out a motion to direct the superintendent to contact the ethics commission to get a ruling on it? And if the ruling comes back that we would allow the project, to give him the authority to continue without delay?
It's pretty much, we have that motion on the table.
Okay.
Yep, Tim had made the motion, Bennett seconded it and that is within the recommendation of the superintendent, so that's what we're discussing.
I got a question. If this doesn't pass, is this woman who put into the project, is she gonna be reimbursed for the money she spent? They're gonna sell a hole for $5,000. It's a two-way street, they can sue us and we can sue him or her.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but we don't have any agreement with.
No agreement. And on the contrary, there was no thing. We weren't proceeding with the house project.
Then ethically, we should, if this should happen, ethics works in both ways. Why should she lose $5,000? Did she do anything wrong? Answer, did she do anything wrong? She didn't do
You're
anything
asking
wrong.
me?
No, anybody. She didn't do anything wrong, did she? But yet,
I don't know that anyone
we're
else
taking
said
the
she
project
did.
away from her. And we're taking a classroom away from the students. The students don't have a classroom now. Is that what we're
Through
here
the
for?
chair, there was never an agreement with this, my understanding, never an agreement with this individual to put a well in or to put a cellar home in.
Well, what about in the past? How about the other people who have?
It's a requirement, not to interject, it's a requirement, it's your responsibility in the contract. Once the contract is executed, you say you will do that.
Right.
But there's been no executed contract, unfortunately. So I don't know the person from Adam, I don't wanna
No, I don't know.
give legal advice, but there's no grounds to sue us that I'm aware of, because there's no contract telling you to do that, and we can't sue her because
Well, I think,
there's
you know,
something
I
here.
don't know, we can see what happens in the future.
Absolutely.
All right, good. We'll do Bob and then Don.
I agree that we should contact the Ethics Commission to have that done. If the students even began the project and were on the ground building and this issue was raised, it would be our due diligence to contact the Ethics Commission to find out if we were in the right. If we did not do that, we were liable for whatever happened with the Ethics Commission. So even if the project was started and the students were on the ground, it would be our responsibility to stop the project, get the answer from the Ethics Commission, and then proceed. So it's good that no project started, no contract was signed, even though it's a year plus that this has happened. Let's do it the right way to be sure that this discussion doesn't continue for ad infinitum. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm a little concerned about the way the vote's going to take place here, because Mr. Brennan outlined what he recommends the school committee seek a ruling, which is good. But then number 2 is amend the existing house building policy and contract as appropriate. And 3, advertise and select the next residential house building project accordingly. Well, I don't know why we would not say that the person that filled out the application, who we're discussing about whether or not she should be getting a house, why she shouldn't be getting it if the ethics board says that it's okay to do. And I think when we contact the ethics board, I hope whoever does it references that 6.16 and ask them what in there specifically violates what we're trying to do. You gotta reference this item specifically, so that we say, this is why we can't give it to an employee unless we modify the existing contract. I know that person got a ruling from the board, the state ethics board, that said that we could go, as long as it was posted in the teacher's contract. We've gone through that. Why they didn't reference this all by itself, I don't know. But if whoever's writing the letter, I'm not sure if it's the superintendent or the school committee, I think we gotta reference this item and say, why do we have to go beyond what it says right here? And so therefore, I think what we have to do is, I shouldn't say that. I won't say that.
Yeah, the only thing I would follow, excuse me, Don, with that is, we had some discussions a couple meetings back where we were talking about the advertising of the house project, which is really not a lot of advertising. I asked some people in Webster if they even know about the house building project, and the answer I got back is no. And I think that's pretty true. I said this at another meeting. I think that's pretty true at most of the towns. So I hear what you're saying, Don, but part of me also thinks that if we get this resolved, that we should throw this back out to the public, and with the appropriate advertising, social media, whatever it is. I can't believe out of the 10 towns, there's nobody else that wants to have a house built. And I think we owe it to the residents of the 10 towns that do pay to support this school, give them that opportunity. And I'm not saying that we've hid it under a basket, but we certainly haven't thrown a really bright light on it over the years, so.
Just to say, unfortunately, I agree with the advertising. I don't know how many papers are part of the Stonebridge Press and how many online. Thank you, well, I guess I do now. I didn't know that a moment ago. But you guys all know, we advertise town elections and nobody shows up and there was an election? So again, people got their head in the sands if they want to have their head in the sand. The school has done this project for 30 plus years, very successfully, I might add. And it's a shame that it doesn't carry forward. We see the press releases when they have the open house. So it's not just, hey, we're building a house. Hey, come and look at what we just built. And people don't know that. So again, it's not to say that we're not doing our best, but we could fly planes through the towns, we could have it on the fire trucks, and people would still look at you and question, you do that? So, sooner or later, enough's enough, all you can do is say you tried on that. And it's just, again, we've seen it time and more, to get a vote.
Through the chair, to Mr. Montville's point, advertise and select the next residential house building project accordingly. If the State Ethics Commission says the way it was advertised back in 21 and rolled out is okay and you can move forward with it, that's what accordingly means. So to check that, it was advertised in 21, it was the only applicant, and is there a path forward on that? So if they say, yes, fee-based, or no, fee-based doesn't cover it, you need to add it to the collective bargaining, and if they say that wasn't in place, you need to re-advertise it, we would follow that. If they say it's fee-based, there's no need to re-advertise, you can proceed with it, then that's what the accordingly would be, to move ahead and build that submittal from Israel. So just looking to clarify, you know, so I'm not saying specifically if they say, you know, CMR, you know, 930, section 616 covers it, then we don't have to re-advertise. If they say that's fine, we've got it and we can move forward accordingly.
So would you, through the chair, if that were the case, Mr. Brenner, you would allow Ms. Reel, that project to be awarded to Ms. Reel this year?
So it's not, again, it's your decision. It's the school committee's decision. And I think that would be based on the ethics commission saying, no, that met, you did it, it's covered under fee-based, you can move forward. That's their ruling on that. So, and it would be the committee's decision to move forward and not go through the rigmarole. You know, I think they're, you know, again, looking at the house building policy, there are other areas that need to be updated, you know, on that. But, right, so the advertise accordingly was get a decision from the horse's mouth and say, yes, you can do this. No, that doesn't qualify. If you do amend the employment contract, it was advertised before that benefit was there, you need to re-advertise and go through it. And if that's the only one, move forward with it. So that's, hopefully that gave some clarification.
Right, but it's still, you know, you said it's up to us to approve it, but it still comes from you for a recommendation.
Yeah,
to us.
I would recommend, again, I would go with what State Ethics Commission says.
So you would say, if the State Ethics gives us
a hypothetical.
Right, if it gives us a clear go-ahead and saying that it can be done, you would be okay with recommending this Reel as the next owner?
So, yeah, this doesn't apply, this isn't personal, this is.
No, I understand that, Count, but I just want, because it says, okay, accordingly, re-advertise accordingly, okay.
Right, based on,
okay.
They say, yeah, if that section applies, and they say you don't have to do anything, you're good to go, we've already done it. And if they say, no, that one doesn't, you can do it, amend the CBA, and then say, do we have to re-advertise? Be specific in the letter of what has been done, is there a clear path forward? What is that clear path forward? So that, you know, if somebody picks up the phone and calls them, we say, oh, here we go, and yeah, we know about that, and they're all set. And we move forward.
I have two items. Number one is, I think Bob brought it up, is who would write the letter? Would that be a school committee letter or through the superintendent? That's my first question.
Who would you like to see write the letter?
Well, I think it should be a school committee because ultimately it is us. So that's my recommendation. Number two would be, if that's the case, I would like to make a motion that we write the letter to the.
So can we table that 1 second? Because we have a motion on the table already.
Oh, I'm sorry. So to override the first motion.
Yeah, so the motion on the table is to accept the recommendation of the superintendent as outlined here. So we have to take action on that before I can take another motion.
And that motion includes the school committee seeking a ruling, not the superintendent director seeking a ruling. So that's already in this motion,
Okay,
which I would recommend.
so that answers question one, Dave.
Yes, it's 100% the way it should go. It's not Kyle's job. Now, Kyle can draft the letter signed by the school committee chairman,
Yeah.
if that's how we deem it should be written by the school committee, but that is how it should be.
Right.
Kyle, you've got all the facts figured. I would recommend you write the letter. It goes to the school committee chair because the vote says school committee seek, and you sign it and submit it to the State Ethics Commission, and it meets the motion.
If I may add to that, can we, when you, after you sign it, can you send it out to everybody?
Oh, circulate it for sure.
Yeah.
Circulate.
Just send it out.
John?
Say the state comes back to us by mid-month, they say proceed. They want to advertise more, they'll probably offer some advice. Will this be for this year? Will they commence this year? And then we have another project next year? Or is it going to be this year and next year?
It would be most of next year, right?
It would be if they start at the beginning of the year, the house project is designed to be completed in the year, so it'll be done.
So this is really for next year's, the students this year won't be working on it
It'll be
this
in the
year.
fall.
If there is no,
Okay.
if it's a go, you don't have to re-advertise. Re-advertising is gonna take longer, and it wouldn't happen next year.
Any other questions or comments, clarifications?
Could you please verify what a yes vote, no vote is on this motion?
Yeah, a yes vote would follow the recommendation of the superintendent director, which entails, one, the school committee would seek a ruling from the Massachusetts State Ethics Commission on the practice of building homes for current employees. And then depending on the outcome of that, amend the existing house policy and contract as appropriate, and advertise and select the next residential house building project accordingly. So everything kind of stems from number one, is my understanding of it.
For the chair. So that language doesn't allow for the house being built in September without going out to bid. And my concern is if ethics comes back and says it's quite all right under these circumstances, especially if we add the piece about our kids not having their classroom for next year in that letter, and ethics comes back and says, you don't need to put this back out to bid, it's okay to build it, for whatever reason, whatever happened the last couple of years between COVID and pushbacks and everything else, state of emergency, they allow us to do that. That language isn't in there as it's written right now.
Can I make a suggestion then? Can we start with number one?
Yeah.
Because I think that's what we're trying to go after, right? And limit the motion to number one, and then based on what that response is, come back and make our next step decision, which would give us that flexibility, I think, that Don and George and others are alluding to, just a thought.
Would you
have to amend.
Would you repeat number one again?
Number one is for the school committee to seek a ruling from the Massachusetts State Ethics Commission on the practice of building homes for current employees. Current employees, teachers, employees, administrators, anyone.
So,
Well, does that answer his question?
yes.
I don't know. I'm trying.
So the other option is, and again, just to interject real quick, because I want to get this put to bed so we're done before the May meeting. Number one, absolutely, we're all in agreement, that's what we want to ask the question of. Number two, amend the house building policy and contract as appropriate, because 1 equals 2, no matter what. If they say do this, we just amend the contract. 3, award existing applicant or advertise and select the next residential house building project accordingly. So if they come back and say, you can go with Gen Real, we go with Gen Real. If it says you cannot, we advertise and award accordingly. That will save us a step in May. We vote to proceed into a contract if we get our opinion that we're all hoping we get, especially Mrs. Reel. And if not, get the advertising out so we can start a project in September.
I like that one better.
If we don't do that, there is no project next year.
That's good, that's it.
It's better than my idea.
All right.
Thank you.
So Tim, do you agree with amending that way, because you were the motion? If you remember an hour ago.
That's,
Then
I
I,
think that's takes care of all the angles.
second.
Second.
Joe.
Alright, wait,
Just
so
a-
is that an amendment
So,
you're
yes.
doing now?
So there's an amendment on the floor to revise number 3, to read award existing
I got
applicant
it.
or advertise. So that's the amendment, we have a second, now
That
in
was
discussion. That was good.
Maybe I'm just, maybe I'm just being picky, and maybe it doesn't, does it have to be worded award to the
Existing applicant.
if applicable?
Well,
Because.
based on
Based on-
ethics, again, we're
We have to
surmising, we can write it as needed, but based on ethics opinion or advertise accordingly.
I just don't want to get it picked apart afterwards and say, well, you didn't.
We're sending
say
it to
that.
ethics, so.
Yeah.
I knew there's a reason why we keep it around, Ben.
Yeah, because I can remember now.
Yeah, so award, just number 3.
Yeah.
Award existing applicant or advertise and select the next residential house for the project or depending on. All right, so we have an amendment on the floor and a second to revise. Yeah, who was the second on that one? I'm sorry. No, I saw one.
Tim was gonna amend his, and I'll second to the amendment.
So it's Tim made the motion.
Tim had the
to
original
amend,
motion,
and
he can
second.
amend his motion, and I'll just jump on a second. Everyone sit on your hands, so we don't have any more questions. Let's get voting.
Questions on the amendment? Questions on what we're voting on?
Stop asking, just vote.
I want to be clear, Ben.
What you got?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Unanimous? Okay.
Hallelujah.
Now we're voting on the motion as amended. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Amen.
Next item, school safety. So in light of incidents, unfortunate incidences in Nashville, Ms. Lente had asked for kind of an overview of our school safety policy and what we have in place to avoid situations such as the ones that are becoming all too familiar.
So, through the chair, I just want to say we have great relations with our local law enforcement, not just here in the town of Charlton, but among our 10 communities, and we work very closely with them and take safety in high regards. What we do is we practice ALICE training. ALICE is alert. Alert is the first notification of danger. L for lockdown. Barricade the room and prepare to evacuate or counter if necessary. So it's not strictly a lockdown. Inform is the I. Communicate the violent intruder's location and direction in real time. So there's constant communication. If they're on the second floor, you're on the first floor, you know you can evacuate and get out of the building safely. Counter. So as a last resort, create noise, movement, distance, and distraction with the intent of reducing the shooter's ability to shoot accurately. Counter is not fighting, and it is a strategy of last resort. Evacuate. When safe to do so, remove yourself from the danger zone. So that's the information that's constantly going out. We won't go into great detail of how that happens, because when you do that, especially public, it's a how-to. This is how they respond, this is how I'll react. But ALICE was the pioneer in active shooter preparation and training in our country. They were the first program to question the reasonableness of a lockdown only policies and training, and because they were the first, they had the most experience, the credibility, and the most support for implementation of the program. So what occurs with ALICE? ALICE has training at every level. So all staff is trained annually and recertified annually. They have ALICE for administration, food service, transportation, coaches, custodians, and support staff. So depending on what role you're in, that's what you get trained in and you recertify annually. These are just some certificates. So every employee goes through it. So the initial certification, or as an instructor, as our principal is, and recertification as well. And then we get reports, and I'll keep this at distance, but it tells us certification and who has recertified, who needs to recertify, and we hold them accountable on that. We do practice, we conduct drills with our local communities, law enforcement agencies. We allow our law enforcement agencies, just this past summer, came up during the shutdown, and they performed drills here in a real school environment, and they went through all their practices and did the, had to use a post-mortem. What worked well, what do we have to improve on, and do that. One, it reinforces our partnerships with the local law enforcement, and two, they know our school because they drilled here and they practice here and they know it well. And they know the exits, they know the layout. So it's a huge benefit to have them come up and do that here. This year's school drill was held on October 18th with Charlton, Dudley, Spencer, and Webster Police Departments. We announced the morning of, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Cloutier, the one call goes out. We don't announce it in advance. It's as real as we can do it, but in a controlled environment. The one call goes out, it's just a drill, just a drill. So all parents know that if they get a text from a student. When we do it, we announce over the PA, it is a drill to alleviate the fears of our students. It's still traumatizing to some. The supports are in place. And the individuals will go through as if it was a live active shooter. And the law enforcement's here to gauge us. Administration knows their roles. Everybody's in their respective places. They are looking at doors, entrances, exits, the reaction, what's happening in classroom, how people are exiting the classroom. And again, after that awful term, especially in light of what happened post-mortem, we have a series of debriefing questions we go through and say, what worked, what did you see, what was open, what communication wasn't clear, and so forth. So, these are the debriefing questions we go through. So we do practice it. We do bus evacuations. This year's was September 23rd, and the next one's in May. And we do our routine fire drills at the beginning of the year as well as the end of the year. So hopefully that addresses something that we hope and pray we never have to implement.
Two quick items. Number one is that I thought the letter you put out to the parents was really well written and really summed up nicely what BayPAT does and your concerns and policy. I thought that was very well written, so thank you for that. Having done Alice training with students when I was an administrator, boy, I'll tell you, it works so well. And in as much as it's nerve-wracking for the students as we're doing it, the fact that once they've done it a few times, they're more comfortable with it, and God forbid, if it really did happen, they know what to do. So it's a necessary evil, but it works well. And it's good to see that, the kids are doing it. And I guess I would ask Arminda how she feels about it. Through that. Alice training, when you do Alice training in class, in the school, how do you feel?
Last time you did it. I can't remember the last time you did it, but I think it was last year and we did do it in class.
Okay.
How does that impact you? Like, what do you, when that happens, is it nerve-wracking or?
For some students it is.
Yeah.
For me personally, I'm fine. It depends on, I guess, what teacher you're with, because some teachers will kind of, they're more hesitant to run out of the building, and others, I guess, are very proactive. Once we hear this, then we're out of here, So, overall, it's fine, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, good. That's all I have.
Police officers, what do we have here? We have a school resource officer, Officer Lenny Bean from Charlton. And again, so just after the unfortunate Tennessee, there was swatting. And I think swatting is false reports. And we work with, immediately, he's indicated to us that they got the alert from I think it's Fusco, which is the state police, that this is happening. So they inform us right up front. I have clear communications with the chief in Charlton, and he had indicated, that was happening. So we work very closely with them.
So in light of Nashville, right, are they looking at the doors and the glass and all that?
So we haven't looked at that. There is a lot, I think new builds they're looking at the incident where they shot out the door, gain entry. So can they use a Lexan, I think it is, a bulletproof? Yeah, so I think new builds are looking at retrofit, haven't seen legislation requiring that.
Tim?
For a little clarification, we are paying the resource officer the percentage of days that he is in Bay Path, at Bay Path.
Yes.
And the town uses, but in the course of a day, what does that resource officer do? What time does he typically, is he here for the full school day?
Yes.
And visible during, I'm guessing during cafeteria time and things of that nature?
Yes.
Okay, and what else during the day? Is it a walk around the school, or?
He does exterior entrances, checks, make sure that those are closed. He is in the public area, he makes rounds into the public is where the cosmetology and the restaurant is, he's present there. So he is present throughout the building, checking on those and interacting with the students and building relationships there. He gets a myriad of questions from teachers, especially during the times of swatting and that of what's happening.
Just a question, in that emergency plan, do staff and faculty know the individuals that are identified to speak to the media? And is there an alternative to that also?
In the guidelines that we have for emergency planning, superintendent, directors, the only ones supposed to be communicating with television or any type of media, and if you saw president, then it's me.
Okay,
So
and in lieu of the superintendent, at a conference or something, is there a substitute of you, the principal?
Correct.
And the faculty and all staff know that protocol?
There's part of it in the emergency handbook, it's on staff documents on the website.
Was he from because it could be a storm coming through, the destruction, and all of a sudden the media is on the phone.
Correct.
And you only want one voice from Bay Path, from the institution.
Absolutely.
And that's why I asked that question.
Also with the, just to let you know, they were asking about the SRO. The SRO also sets up when we go to do this, and we keep it like Mr. Kyle said, we keep it private so no one knows it. They communicate with all local police stations, invite them all up here. We have schools that come up to watch us do this event. We put them all in like stripes, whether it's another school official or ourselves standing there. So we're part of it, but we're not really part of it, but they're supposed to keep walking and do their own thing, like we're just there for rating. I think he showed them their student forms, one that goes out to the faculty afterwards, and then there's a form that they have on clipboards that they're answering questions and not only through all the drills, to make sure that anything we miss, they pick up.
If faculty and administration and staff know where their emergency plan is?
Yes. They should.
And it should be on the top of their desk?
No, it should not be on top of the desk of emergency part of the plan, because we don't want other people to have knowledge of where all our plans are or what we're planning on doing. It should only be a selected few with the outcomes if something happens one way, is which way we're gonna turn, because if we give it out to everyone, like one time we were bringing it, they wanted us to present everything to everyone here, and then everyone knows exactly what the plans are. 9 out of 10, mostly incidences are happening in schools, is is usually someone that actually has been in the school, a student, or faculty member. That's usually what's said.
Irene, did you have something?
I just wanted to add, through the chair, Kyle, a reminder, when this happened on October, something I think we had forgotten about because of COVID was we actually had people in the building. At the time of day it was being done in cosmetology, we had customers. So that added an interesting layer, and it was a good chance to learn. And what I want to pass on is that those members of the public who were here were thrilled. They were very happy to see that we were taking this seriously, that we were going through this, and they were very impressed with how the students reacted and behaved and took it seriously as well. Now, they did in fact remain in their chairs, but the cosmetology instructor made it clear that had this been real, she would have been evacuating her customers as well. I just wanted to pass on the positive comments from the community on that particular day.
Thank you. John?
I should know this, being on the policy subcommittee. Is there a policy at the school where, say, a teacher that has a license to carry, do we have a policy where there are absolutely no guns allowed on the school premises?
I believe that's actually state law. It's state law. Yeah, absolutely.
So much for that idea. I've noticed with great interest, it was enough to get me to change my perspective. But over the last few years, there have been numerous mass shootings at schools and elsewhere that have been stopped by people in states where license to carry is more common. 10, 20 minutes before the police could show up. It's nice we have, I presume that one gentleman that's here is our.
They showed up with the resource officer, is supposed to be officer.
Okay, if it's state law that prevents that. Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you for that. Helen, does that answer questions you had there?
Yeah, it does. I just keep thinking about that side of the building where the shops are. They receive supplies probably during the day all the time. How do they keep those doors closed? Remember, that was a problem first time around.
Yeah, so those doors are only unlocked when the restaurant is open for service. Access to the rest of the school is under lockdown, so you need a card key access to get out of that area into the main hallways where the schools are on it.
So if a truck shows up with some supplies for automotive, does that driver have to call someone to open the door, or?
If it's locked, yes, they call and there's a buzzer, so we have that.
Right. Thank you.
Just so you know, that deliveries, they come to the front office first, they buzz in, they're notified at that point, and from the main office, they call down to watch the door, and someone will be coming up so they can open it and let the person in.
That's good.
That's a good
That's
point.
good.
The
That's a
Napa
good point.
Auto, constantly I hear
Yeah.
buzz in the front, I have a
Yes.
delivery for auto.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. One other quick item under new business, we touched on it earlier, but I just wanted to throw out the reminder that next Monday at 6 o'clock is when we have Maskey coming in to provide some training on superintendent evaluation. So any who can make it, it's probably a beneficial training for all of us.
Can I ask how many people will be here so that I can let them know?
I sent that to you, I can send it to you again, I have it on paper. So I think there was about 12 definites and maybe 3 more.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just didn't want one person sitting here.
No, we've got more than half, so that's good. Yeah, that's good.
Does that have to be posted?
Yeah.
Yes.
And what time was that?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
Report from the superintendent, do you want to go through that now or hold it till after?
I can just, I mean, it was a detailed report. I can answer any questions rather than rereading everything on it. I would just like to add, two things that came in afterwards that I didn't put in. Was we received a proposal for the mechanical engineering consulting services for the study of e-communication and advanced manufacturing. We finally got somebody to respond. We have a detailed proposal from Siemens Engineering Corporation, so we'll be reviewing that and then moving forward on the project to address the humidity in advanced manufacturing. And the other thing I just want to bring out is over April vacation, we'll be offering a mini explore to 7th graders. So exposing students at a younger age to what benefits and opportunities are available for career vocational technical education. We have several shops that have stepped up to run the program over April: automotive technology, carpentry, cosmetology, culinary arts, information support services and networking, metal fab, plumbing, programming, and web dev. To date, we have just under 40 students who signed up for it. We sent out the flyers and brochures to all our middle schools so they can sign up for it.
7th graders?
7th graders get in, they'll do a mini hands-on project and, hopefully get the creative juices that, hey, I'm gonna apply next year. It's a grant number 112, CDT grant number 112. The purpose is to provide supplementary support to build school and district capacity to address issues around the equity and access in career vocational technical education in 3 areas: analyzing data, enhancing English learner recruitment, and success in building equitable structures. So hopefully we get a good demographic of students coming in, and we'll get the feedback from that and look forward to maybe changing some of our practices or continue this on an ongoing basis to generate, a basic knowledge of what happens up here. That is, a lot of opportunities. So I wanted to bring that, highlight that. And again, I can answer any questions from the detailed report. Just our robotics team is leaving tomorrow at 3 a.m. from the grounds to head out to Pleasanton for that, so we wish them well on that.
Okay, thank you. That was empty. Subcommittee reports. First, subcommittee, audit subcommittee, Mr. Caldwell.
No, not report.
Budget subcommittee.
I guess we've been around to how many towns by this time for presentations? Third half? About half?
Yes, so that's in the front page. Dudley doesn't need us, North Brookfield isn't requesting us, in Webster. So we've been to 6, and Oxford is Wednesday night.
Where is that meeting held? Was it
Town Hall.
7 o'clock?
I think 6:45.
Yeah.
So, buildings and grounds subcommittee, Mr. Wilby's not here. We wish him well, as he works through some health challenges. But buildings and grounds, did you want to speak to the meeting tomorrow on the solar?
Oh, we have a meeting, Mr. Cloutier and myself will be meeting with the town administrator, planning board chair, and maybe zoning board to discuss the solar proposal and see what can be done to resurrect our proposal for a solar field that will in turn help fund new athletic fields, much needed new athletic fields. So stay tuned. Thank you for that, everyone.
Okay, negotiation subcommittee.
Well, tonight we had a meeting at 6 o'clock. We dealt with several items. We voted some of them.
Executive, yeah, okay. I know you're being intentionally vague.
Yes.
All right. Policy subcommittee.
We are still in the process of following up on the house building project. And as we had discussed earlier in the meeting, we will wait for an answer from the Ethics Commission Other than that, that's it.
Thank you. And again, the warrant is circulating. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to see it. Under future business, our next meeting is scheduled for May 1st at 7 p.m. Same time, same place.
Thank you.
Any further remarks from the superintendent?
I would just like to, again, congratulate John Erickson on receiving the Marcus Ashley Presidential Award from the Mass CTE. Ceremony was held just this past weekend on Saturday down at Patriot Place. Congratulations. Thank you.
And they wanted me to commit for another 50 years. I'm sorry.
You only gave him 25?
And congratulations to our PN student who received the Post-Secondary Student of the Year Award from Mass CTE, Anna Hillner, who's also a proud parent of a Bay Bath student, current Bay Bath student on that. And I just want to publicly wish our committee member, Robert Wilby, well in all he's going through. I spoke to him just recently and his spirits are up and he's doing great. Eager to get back.
Good to hear. All right, comments from the committee? Mike, all set? Good?
I just wanted to ask Mr. Tripp, I still see the students in the white bus during the day going to the animal shelter. What are they doing over there where it's all done the last year or so?
Yes, so through the chair, minor improvements, whether it be checking on a lighting issue, I think was the most recent thing, lighting that they installed, the automatic outdoor lights weren't coming on at night, so they were done there for that. A circuit breaker was tripping the classroom, so the projector stopped working. Yeah, minor things here and there.
So is that in the main building or that new house they built in the back?
The main building. Yeah.
What happens in the building in the back?
That is considered their marketing building. The students are out there as part of one of their stations. The classroom is out back.
I see.
And a lot of storage.
Thank you. Okay.
Sounds good. Al?
Good.
Don?
We're good. All set.
I just wanted to mention I did make it to the house project that was just completed. And tell everyone, great job. It's a beautiful home. And it was nice to participate.
Tim?
Did all your remarks. They very, very well constructed. And congratulations once again to Don Erickson. Presidential award this time, huh?
And they spelled my name right.
How do you not?
John?
I'm good, thank you.
George?
Through the chair, just one item. Back a couple of months ago, I asked about the makeup of the search committee, the screening committee for the incoming principal. Just curious if there are any updates on that. Will that committee include any school committee members? And if so, how will they be nominated, chosen, or appointed?
Sure. Through the chair, the committee was selected. It was opened up to the faculty and staff. I think everyone who put in is on the committee. And they were notified today with the first meeting being Wednesday afternoon. So we're progressing with that. And there is no school committee representative on that.
Through the chair, might I ask, are there any parents or other representatives outside of the building?
No.
Might I ask what the makeup of the committee is?
It's a mix of vocational, academic, support staff, and administration. 17 in total, Mr. Tripp? Correct. So anybody, it was sent out, anybody who put in was selected to sit on the selection committee.
Okay, I would just like to share my disappointment that the committee was not invited to participate in that, as some of us are very dedicated to the district and have been for many years. Not saying me personally, but I've never been part of a superintendent search committee where there were not school committee members or parents, but everyone, as been said before, different districts do things different ways. Just sharing my opinion.
Sure. So just point of clarification, it's a principal search committee.
Correct. I've been on many of those. That's all I have.
Jim? You want to comment, really? Okay. Peter?
Want to wish Bob Wilby quick recovery.
What's up? Congratulations, Don.
Okay.
Congratulations, Don, and same with Bob Wilby. I did talk to him the other day as well. His spirit's up, but, and happy Easter.
Thank you.
Linda, all good? All right. Just same things, the house project, very impressive. The thing that stuck out to me was the multiple garages. I mean, that's the perfect house. It's all garage. It's perfect. Good luck to the robotics competition. Hopefully they do well. I'm sure they will. With that, the next item we have on the agenda is to move into executive session for contract negotiations. Whoever makes the motion, could I just ask that you read it into the record, the reason that we're going into executive session? If anyone needs it, I got it written here.
So moved. Is that the one that says the school committee vote to move into executive session to conduct contract negotiations with union or non-union personnel, to reconvene in open session to announce any results and/or adjourn?
Second. Motion and a second. We'll do a roll call. Mr. Beelan. Oh, Mr. Beelan's not here. Mr. Caldwell.
Yes.
Mr. Erickson.
Yes.
Mr. Gillette.
Yes.
Mr. Grenier.
Yes.
Mr. Lamont.
Yes.
Ms. Lente.
Yes.
Mr. Montville.
Yes.
Ms. Pantos.
Yes.
Mr. Pulaski.
Yes.
Mr. Reich.
Yeah.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Tim Shore.
Yes.
Mr. Scobie.
Yes.
Mr. Taveri.
Yes.
Mr. Tremblay.
Yes.
And Mr. Zakowski.
Yes.
We're in executive session.